it seems like the more I work on myself, a lot of things open up for me.
That companionship, that love, that care, and having one person that I know that I can always go to and trust.
And the guy that was mentoring me says, just do it. You'll be glad you did. And man, I hesitated. And I'll tell you what, my income shot after that.
Feeling healthy and feeling good also allowed for me to then focus on the financial wellness and goodness.
Don't be afraid to make a wrong choice. I've spent a lot of time so afraid to make a wrong choice. I end up not making a choice, and that is a choice. All right, welcome back. This is the Massive Passive Income Show. I'm Jason.
And I'm Colter, and we're going to talk about 5 things that we feel like have most impacted us in our business and just personal careers, lives. Man, pick 5 things. You go first. What's the first one?
I'll go first. I think for me, probably my top one is working more on myself than anything else. And that could be education for whatever business I'm running. That could be, personal development. That could be, coaching with maybe a bookkeeper or a tax professional. Man, I'll tell you what, I have spent a lot of money in the last 20 years working on myself. And it seems like the more I work on myself, a lot of things open up for me. Because we all carry around a big bag of shame and toxic shame and things we should have done, things that our parents did to us. And so all that hinders us from going out there and being our best selves. So I think, working on ourselves by listening to books and taking classes and becoming an expert, whatever that field is that you're in, I think that is probably my number one thing. And I know it's for you too. I don't know about number one, but personal development, I think is probably my top one for my top 5.
Yeah. No, I really like that, like working on yourself. And I think about the analogy or the comparison of when we're on a commercial flight and they say, look, if there's an emergency and the oxygen masks fall first, who do you put it on first?
Yourself.
You put it on yourself first so that then you can help somebody else.
Yeah.
And
but I'll bet you there's a lot of moms out there that would still hit their kids first. I know they would. I think my wife would be one of them. It's really tough for them because that's part ingrained. Take care of the kids first, then you second. But man, you got to do you first,
Yeah. No, I really do think that you cannot help somebody if you don't know how to help yourself. And I've also thought of you cannot give what you do not have.
Oh, I love that.
And if I've never obtained enough or something to be able to give to someone, whether that's intellectual or it's financial or it's spiritual, if I haven't been able to obtain it myself, I can't give it to anyone else.
Yeah, love that. All right, what's your next one?
Man, well, I think that first one is really good. If I were to think deeply about what I think has had the most impact and given me the most power, is having a wife that loves and supports me in all of the things, the crazy ideas, the late nights of, dreaming and creating and building and getting out of bed early, and her being on board with the vision that I have to build for our family, but for my career. And I just think that support and that love and the kindness in times when, man, it just isn't easy, when I come home extremely stressed because there's just stuff that I can't control happening in the businesses. That companionship, that love, that care, the devotion, and having one person that I know that I can always go to and trust and just be like, you know what? It was either a most amazing day, let's celebrate, or it wasn't the day I was looking for and I need your help.
Yeah.
I think that one for me sticks out the most.
That was my number 2 also. I'm not kidding. It is amazing. It is amazing how important it is to pick your spouse wisely. It makes all the difference in the world. It really does. And I remember my dad told me one day, he says, you marry who you date. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, of course. But then I was thinking about it later, and I'm like, I need to be wise on who I date, is what he was saying. Because you marry the people who you date. And if you're not dating the person that you'd want to marry, then don't date that person. And I think that's huge. I mean, 20 years, and you've been entrepreneur for probably close to 20 years too, haven't you?
Yeah.
Coming up,
Yeah,
right?
I have. Yeah, I started my first business when I was 18. So.
Yeah, there you go. And same with me, over 20 years. And I'm telling you what, that spouse pick, that partner pick is huge. And I've heard many a millionaire, many an entrepreneur say that that is an important decision, to make sure that person that you marry is the right person, because it can, I mean, I have buddies go through it and it's tough. And friends that are girls too go through and have picked the wrong spouse, or things weren't what they were supposed to be. And it's man, it's tough. It's tough. Then you have kids, whatever else. So anyways, I love that. Number two. So number three for me, and you might think this is funny, but I think number three for me that changed everything for me was picking a bookkeeper that I could trust.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you what, bringing that home and having me try to do that, or to push that off onto my wife. Once I got an assistant of like a bookkeeper, not assistant, she's a bookkeeper and she's awesome. And she doesn't put a whole bunch of time, maybe 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, depending on the week. But that made all the difference for me in the world. And it was tough when I was doing mortgages back in the day, and I had a mortgage company that I was working with, and I had 4 or 5 people that was working under me. And when I went to hire an assistant, it freaked me out, because I'm like, I'm okay being in charge of my income and my household, but to be in charge of somebody else's income, because it's if I don't produce, then that's got to come out of, I've got to produce enough to cover mine and my family's and hers. But I'll tell you what, that was a game changer. Mm-hmm. And the guy that was mentoring me says, just do it. You'll be glad you did. And man, I hesitated. And I'll tell you what, my income shot after that. And ever since then, we've had some sort of bookkeeper or an assistant to help me out and to help us. And it's made a big difference.
Yeah. Well, that financial awareness, I think, is so powerful. And when I hired a bookkeeper for the first time, I could see the shift in my mindset. Yeah. Is that I wasn't so focused on the granular in the small details. I had somebody that could do that and do it really well, so that I could focus on the high level, the big numbers, and I could go create some more of those big numbers, rather than having to worry about, what did we spend on paper this month? Yeah. Or, did we have to replace the ink in that printer?
Did you get that signature? Whatever it may be.
Yeah. And, and when we got our first assistant, that was another game changer, is just having, a few of those smaller tasks that could get done and not have to run across town last minute and waste an hour round trip. And, being able to save some of that time was a huge, huge thing for me. So I love that, like that financial awareness. Yeah. And I have a master's in accounting. Yeah. Like it's not because I'm not qualified to do accounting, but I shouldn't do our accounting. And that's just what it comes down to.
It's amazing how much more I could focus on production, and how much more I was able to not push off on her, but to have her do what she's good at, and have me go talk to people and sell, which is what I'm good at. And I tripled what I did the quarter before, just by having somebody focus on what, and I even moved it, because she was only paying hourly, and I'm like, you deserve more money. So I gave her a percentage of everything I was doing, and she was happy because she was making more than she's ever made. I was making more than it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So it's number 4 for you.
So number 4 for me, I think from a financial wellness standpoint, is a fitness wellness standpoint.
Love that.
I've always been pretty active, but it was in 2019, my family and I had taken a trip. We traveled the whole U.S. in 2018. And I came home and I dove into fitness with some buddies and got about the most fit I've been in my entire life in 2019. And that there shifted my mindset because my mind was clear. It was like the clarity just began to flow simply because I wasn't impeded by, not feeling well. And I've gone through this journey, and we've had some different like health instances in Paige in my life, and there's been some other indicators of like, hey, these are some things to focus on. And we also have a family history of some different health challenges that like I have to strictly focus on certain things, or else, there's really not a lot of good prospect of being able to live a long life if I don't focus on my health.
Wow.
And I think that 2019 woke me up to that fact, but then I saw how it impacted other aspects of my life. Being well, and it doesn't mean that I have to have a six-pack. Now, one day I would love to have a six-pack, Jason. And I was really close in 2019, but feeling healthy and feeling good also allowed for me to then focus on the financial wellness and goodness, and then be able to think about others during that financial wellness and goodness and abilities to give back. So I think fitness is a huge thing for me.
Love that. And it's been up and down for me. I was just telling you before I got in here, I've lost and gained the same 50 pounds probably, I don't know, 20 times in 50 years, I would imagine. And it's amazing how easy you can focus on something else and how fast it just comes back on. But I'm telling you what, this time it has been tougher. Every time I do it, it's tougher and tougher and tougher. And I told my wife the other day, I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not gonna. I'm on a pretty good roll right now, and I've got my nutrition dialed in, and I'm doing exercising every day, and so I really want to get to that point where I feel better, sleep better. Because I'll tell you what, when you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner, even if you're working for somebody else, whatever it is, sleep is important. And when you're big and overweight, it's really tough to sleep. I snore really bad. I don't sleep very good. Just constant. But I'll tell you, just this 20 pounds, when I hit 20 pounds, my wife's like, your snoring almost stopped completely. So that means my fat in my neck was suffocating, which is not a good thing.
Well, and congratulations, like 20 pounds, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. And I've got more to go. That's why I say I want to get below the 200-pound range and land about 190, I think is where I would be. And that's where I really feel my best. I'll never be a skinny guy. I've never been a skinny guy, but 190, that's my big goal. I want to hit there sometime in the summer. I've got it down. I can't remember what I put for what time in the summer I'm going to hit it. But anyways, I'll tell you what's awesome about making a decision is it has freed my mind up a ton because I already know what I'm going to eat. I've already meal planned. I've got stuff at home. I swing by, I grab it. I can't believe how much that's freed my mind up, freed my headspace up, and made me be able to focus on the things I need to focus on instead of worrying about going to Maverick and figuring out what I'm going to eat and then having the guilt that you're eating something that's not good for you, but you're like, I don't care, I'm going to eat it anyways. It's that whole game that people play. And you say and you think to yourself, it doesn't affect me, but it does. It does. So what's your number 5? I'm debating on a couple of different ones. What's your number 5?
So my number 5 definitely comes down to have a plan.
Okay.
Have a plan, stick to the plan. And I really like the quote, those who fail to plan to fail.
So true.
And I had a conversation last night with a buddy that we were talking about failure. And when we play basketball or volleyball, or like, we make mistakes, but it isn't necessarily considered a failure in the sport, right? What I love about weightlifting is you can go until you fail. until you just simply, the muscles
Just cannot do it.
cannot go any longer.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have, maxes in weightlifting. You have multiple reps that you can do until you just simply fail and somebody has to step in and help you out. And so in the comparison there is, what are we learning from the idea of failure? Is that failure is not something to be afraid of. It's simply stepping stones in the process of being able to reach the success that we want.
Yeah.
But if we do not have a plan, then we will fail to arrive at the place that we want to go. And, my dad always told me, he says, you know what? A goal that is not written is but a wish.
Yeah.
And
not having a plan is a plan.
It is a plan.
It's not a very good plan. It's a choice. It's a choice. Yeah. And my number 5, I think, is don't be afraid to make a wrong choice. I've spent a lot of time so afraid to make a wrong choice that I end up not making a choice, and that is a choice. And so every choice, whether you make one or you don't, has a consequence. Because either you did something, or you're waiting on something, or you want something to go away because you don't want to make that choice. And I think that right there, forcing myself, whether it's a bad decision or not, don't be afraid to make a bad decision, because making a decision then puts yourself in a spot to where if you know it's wrong, you'll know because you made the decision. If you never make the decision, you don't know whether it's wrong or not. And most of the time, you'll notice it very, very short into it that you can make the correction, even though it may cost you a little time, maybe even a little money. That's better than holding out, not doing it, and it ends up so much more money. I've done that on a couple of real estate deals where I'm like, no, I'm not going to take that deal. I think I can get more money. And both times, if I would have sold it for what that first offer was, I would have made more money than trying to hold out. And I should have just, even though I was afraid I was making a bad decision, I should have done it, moved on, and went and did another deal. And so that ability to be okay with making a wrong decision. Now, I'm not saying go out and make wrong decisions, but that fear of making a wrong decision, that you don't make a decision, that's what I've been practicing.
Yeah. I think also we need to give ourselves a little bit of grace on those decisions, right? We made a decision with the best information we had at the time to be able to make that decision.
Yeah.
And, living with regret is not healthy for the present.
Yep.
Right? Focusing on something that we did rather than what we can do has zero productivity to it.
Yeah.
And so I think we learn from the past, we live in the present, and we plan for the future.
Love that. Well, I think those are 5 good things. I really do. And we could probably do more, but I think, a lot of times people think that, hey, give me your 5 best business strategies, or give me the 5 things you've learned. And I think a lot of times people are like, really? That's it? Self-development, personal development, your spouse, what was number 3? Exercise, your health, your planning, and then making a decision like that. I want something big. Well, that is, it really is those 5 things. If you can figure those 5 things out, it will change your life fundamentally and change your life forever. It really will. And sometimes a few of those, you've made a bad choice. And so now you got to redo or do a different choice. And that's okay. This life is full, like you said, is meant to make mistakes, but it's also meant to have some huge wins.
It is. We are designed to be able to thrive in the environment that we've been given.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we can change our circumstances. So we're in control of our destiny. It's just a matter of whether we're going to chase it or not.
Love it. Love it. Thanks for tuning in.